Good afternoon. It's once again a Friday, 5:30 in the afternoon, and this is your host, Congressman Danny Davis, for the next 25 minutes of Hotline 21. Of course, you can join us by calling 312-738-1060. We have a lot of things to talk about. Just a lot of them. As a matter of fact, on yesterday, the United States House of Representatives recessed for 7 weeks. That is, with all of the issues, all of the problems, all of the concerns that are being expressed, we decided to take a recess. And of course, there were a number of things that we didn't do that needed to be done and should have been done, but we did not do them. But nevertheless, you can have a lot of fun during the summer in Chicago. It is just great to be in Chicago. Chicago, Illinois, the city of the big shoulders, founded by an African-American, John Baptiste Point du Sable. Chicago, my kind of town. Chicago, Count Basie and Joe Williams going to Chicago. Sorry, but I can't take you, 'cause it ain't nothing in Chicago that a woman like you can do. Well, Chicago, one of the most dynamic, one of the most vibrant, one of the most interesting, and one of the most dangerous cities in the United States of America. But let's talk about the good side. Things that are coming up, of course, August, we always have the Bud Billiken Parade. I look forward to it. More parading than anywhere that you can do any place in America. Bud Billiken Parade's always the second week of the month, and I expect to be there. I don't know if I'll walk the whole parade this year, but for every year that I can recall, I have walked the entire parade. This year I may not be able to do that much walking. But I also have something that we call the back-to-school picnic and parade that I started out in the Austin community when I became a member of the Chicago City Council. This year we are celebrating our 37th annual back-to-school picnic and parade and the Taste of Austin. It doesn't seem like it, but that's how long it's been since I started that parade, and we have been fortunate. We have never been rained out. We have been rained on, but never ever have we been rained out. And so it's going on every year, and that parade is going to be on August the 27th of this year. And naturally, we try and get all of the young people engaged that we can possibly get engaged. Because we promote education, we say that education is the key. Without it, life for you will probably be challenging at best, difficult without a doubt. And so we put a lot of emphasis on education at every level. As a matter of fact, on August the 7th, I have decreed Chicago State University Day in the 7th Congressional District. And what that really means is that we're going to be promoting Chicago State University from now until then. We have in the 7th District a plethora of institutions, colleges and universities all over the place. All of the universities downtown, Loyola, DePaul, Northwestern, Spartus, East, West, Columbia College. We've got the University of Illinois. We have Malcolm X College. We have Kennedy King. We have Robert Morris. We have East West. We have Concordia College. We Concordia University, Dominican University. We have all of these institutions, but we also have Chicago State University, which is the only predominantly black university in the state of Illinois. That is, black students attending, black individuals being at the helm, and it being designated as something called a PBI, a predominantly black institution. And what that means, it's not old enough to be a historically black institution like Howard, like Texas Southern, like the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, like Hampton, like all of the early schools, those that were established as part of the Morrill Act and came into being at the end of the Civil War and then came into being in the 1890s. Well, Chicago State is not old enough to be that. But fortunately, we were able to get a designation put into law, creating predominantly black institutions. We call them PBIs. And what that means is that the institution has at least a 40% black enrollment and a 40% low income enrollment. In the Chicagoland area, there are a number of those. There's Chicago State, there's Olive Harvey, there is Kennedy King, there is Malcolm X, there is South Suburban College, there's East West University, Robert Morris College, and I think that's about it for the metropolitan area of Chicago. Now, what that means is that those institutions can apply for special grant monies with a good proposal and can get money that they otherwise could not receive in order to operate and run programs. So we're making Chicago State University Day August the 7th, and a lot of people are going to be out promoting Chicago State. It is our goal to do at least 100 churches. That is, to have at least people visit 100 churches on July the 31st and August the 7th and talk about education and higher education. Abraham Lincoln was fond of saying that education makes a man easy to lead but difficult to drive, easy to govern but impossible to enslave. Of course, Malcolm X said that education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare today. And I try and say to young people that their main job while they're growing up is to prepare for the rest of their lives. And that's what their job is. Harriet Tubman said something supposedly about education, and she said that some folks don't like education. They say it makes fools out of people. But then she said, I know more fools who don't have any. And so if you're going to be a fool, you may as well be an educated fool. We have science, math, computer activity, technology. If you are not engaged in any of those things, finding a job is going to be very challenging. So Chicago State University Day, August the 7th, 2016. And I think we have a caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yes, Congressman, I salute you. I'm Nadine Griffin from the South Side. And when you speak about churches, I have 3 churches that I work with, and I'm working all throughout the city, but on the South Side, New Progressive at 94th and Perry, St. James Methodist Church, 93rd and Lafayette, Resurrection Lutheran Church, 94th and Wentworth. And I am willing and able to do all that we need to do because we're neighbors to the college there.
Absolutely. Well, let me tell you, that is so refreshing and so wonderful. You know, I grew up in rural America and came along at a time when African Americans were increasing their ability to go to college. And oftentimes the churches would take up collection. You know, if a student was somehow or another going away to college or going to college, the churches would take up an offering for them, and they would send that young person out with all kind of hope and all kind of possibility. I've seen services where it would just kind of make you almost cry to feel the passion that these people had as they would put together their few dollars and give a student, here, Johnny, as you go to college, make us proud.
Well, my family has always admired you. George Sims was my uncle, and you were one of his favorites.
Well, let me tell you,
all that I can to make sure that we exercise all of this good information.
Well, thank you. Let me tell you, I had a conversation about Commander Sims, Deputy Superintendent Sims.
The first black high-ranking police sergeant.
Yes, we
Chicago.
We were talking about gangs and youth, and George had a saying, because we used to work with the street gangs, the Vice Lords and the Cobras and Roman Saints. We had an organization called Operation Bootstrap. And
That's
George
right.
would say to them, so now, I'll do anything in the world for you boys, but if I catch you getting down wrong, nothing will beat you to the police station but the headlights on the car.
That was his saying.
That was his saying. And it is so refreshing. Thank you so much. It is just a wonderful. And you know, I had a call not too long ago from Barry Batson's wife.
Okay.
And Barry was, of course, one of George's aides. And he and Leroy Grant used to run around with George. And they both were just outstanding men. As a matter of fact, I know that Leroy's son Barry's son became a physician, and Leroy became a lieutenant. And we just had some...
They all did quite well under your leadership, too, as well as you all worked together. See, this is why we have excelled so greatly. Because working together, you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish.
You sure can.
You're doing one great job with my kids over there with Father Who Cares. I love me some Reverend Jones.
Oh, let me tell you, he is just wonderful.
City of Chicago.
He's a little short guy, doesn't weigh no more than about 125 or 30 pounds, but he is packed full of energy.
Dynamite.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful weekend.
And thank you for accepting my call.
All right.
Bye now.
Oh, that was just such a wonderful one. Memories. When you can invoke memories of things that have gone on. And I mentioned Barry Batson because Barry's wife was talking about the fact that there are so many people who have never known what they would call good law enforcement people or good policemen. Well, all of these men that we just finished talking about, and there was even another friend of mine, a fellow named Eddie Harris, who became one of the first neighborhood relations sergeants. All of these men, Barry used to teach kids how to play tennis, and he actually assisted Katrina Adams, who became one of the top 10 female tennis players in America, playing right over there at Garfield Park and other places. But she now is the president of the U.S. Tennis Association and is the first person who was an active player to reach that level, because oftentimes the people at that level are individuals who may have had lots of means and they were patrons but Katrina grew up right on the west side of the city of Chicago. Her parents still live where they've lived for a long time. They were both school teachers, educators. They're now retired, but they helped Katrina every way that they possibly could, and she became a tennis star, and she is still a star and contributing mightily to further advancement of our society, and especially the advancement of young African Americans who are interested in tennis. Well, make use of the summer. I mean, that's the other thing that I always try and convince young people, that just because school is over, or just because you may not be bound to attend in school, get yourself a summer job, get involved with some program, be a part of something that is going on. Make use of yourself. I mean, develop skills, have fun. There are so many challenging ways, but be involved with something that is organized. You know, one of the best programs that I know about for young people is scouting. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Boy Scouting, and unfortunately we don't see as much of it in the African American community as we used to, and there are people who say that scouting is irrelevant, but I try and still attend as many scouting functions. I spent 13 years as chairman of the dynamic Austin District Boy Scouts. And there was nothing that was more delightful to see than to see the little boys with their blue and gold. I've gone to so many blue and gold dinners. And the churches were just an integral part, a real big part of the scouting. Almost every scouting unit that I had was sponsored by a church. I can just think of a number of churches that had great programs, but in order to have these programs with young people, you have to have adults who are willing to volunteer. And if you don't have adults who are going to volunteer, then you can't have the organized activity with young people. So I hope that there are at least 100 people watching who are going to pledge that they're going to spend a good part of their summer supervising some young group or young person so that those individuals can make the most effective use of themselves during the summer. Sponsor a reading club. Whatever it is, do it. Caller, are you there? Yes, caller, go right ahead.
Davis, U.S. Representative 7th District. I want to ask this question. When you look at all the other state universities or public colleges, wherever you want to put it, why is it seems like Chicago State are the one that seems like on the blink of closing its doors? Could it be because that university is on the far side of Chicago? Got to ask certain types of questions. Why?
Well, it didn't have as much of what is called an endowment. Colleges and universities and other institutions often have endowments. And so if they run into difficulty with the public money that they receive, say from the state government or from the federal government, they may have some reserves that they can dip into. And Chicago State did not have as many reserves.
I ask one last other question. It had been in the media reported when it had these university officials have misappropriated funds.
There are some university as well, but I haven't heard anything about Chicago State having any misappropriation problem.
Oh, it has.
I don't know anybody that went to jail from Chicago State for doing anything with any money that was funny. Chicago State has never had the kind of money that many other institutions have. For example, I've known wealthy people to give institutions $200 or $300 million. I mean, of course, they have money that we can just laugh about and add about. And there are people who've earned a lot of money. There are other people.
Again, why they get money? And because this university on the far south side, you got to ask this question. You got some universities downstate near cornfields and other places, and you got to ask this question because this university on the far side of Chicago, why are they having certain type of problems and compared to others?
Well, their alumni also give them money. Chicago State was basically a teachers' college. It has expanded, but teachers and never earned a lot of money. I'm saying some people wanted to earn a lot of money. Other people didn't.
Being a teacher.
All right, so if you're going to be a teacher, you know you're not going to earn a lot of money. Let me get this other call in.
On the side.
Okay. Caller, are you there? Yes, caller, go right ahead. All right, maybe they left, but everybody don't want to earn a lot of money, but you need enough money to function, to survive. And I believe that if you can do a little bit, that's better than just a few people doing a whole lot. So those who may have attended Chicago State, you can't give $1 million, but you can give 100. And so alumni play serious roles in generating the resources that these institutions need in order to operate. I majored in teacher education when I first went to college, so I knew that teachers were not going to make a whole lot of money. And it's never been my objective to make a whole lot of money. But if you can get a lot of people to do a little bit, that's just as effective as a few people doing a whole lot. It's been a great afternoon. Thank you so much for calling and listening. We'll see you next week.